Hi, great to see you. Thanks for coming by. So, today I wanted to talk about 6 signs that you're the empath in the toxic family. And the first sign is you're generally the nurturer. You're the one that holds the family together. An example with me is when COVID hit, I was the one to set up the Zoom calls and connect the family. I'm usually the one to get the gift for my parent and then have all the other siblings, chip in. That kind of behavior, always thinking and nurturing. And then generally you're sort of trained to come to the understanding that you're to value others before yourself. So it's very natural for you to really give, even when your own tank is running on empty. And you're usually a people pleaser. Like there's huge fear that comes up when you think about putting out a need or suggesting another way to think of something. And the word no is really hard. I remember when I was first taught that no was a complete sentence because my boundaries living in a toxic and chaotic home became very porous and my self-worth was very low. So I wanted to please others at all costs to try to find some kind of safety and comfort. And it generally came at my own expense. And then I could never say no. And that definitely continued into my own adulthood. So I think that's the third trait. The fourth is that you suck up the energy and the emotion that doesn't belong to you. I mean, my parents fought fiercely, and I was generally the one to break up their fights, to get in the middle of it. I mean, I remember walking home from school, seeing my father's clothing and belongings being flung out of the second-story window down into the front yard with my father standing in the yard. And I couldn't wait to get there so I could start picking them up, which I did immediately, and was almost frozen and trying to tell my father, that he couldn't leave, that we really needed him there, and just tense in my whole body. And when my parents would argue, I would try to fix it. Even if it was non-verbally, I would be trying to fix it inside with thoughts and feelings and emotions. You carry the weight of others in your own body. It's very typical for an empath to feel the sensations of others in their bodies strongly, especially in traumatic times, almost like you're carrying it. You want to help that other person, and you do it energetically to help them find some kind of comfort and solace, disregarding the impact that has on yourself. And one of the things I have to do, even to this day, when I realize there's that heaviness, that sort of density that I'm carrying, I say either out loud or to myself, I release the vibrations, the frequency, the energy, the emotion that is not mine. I release it in this moment. And generally, a few minutes later, I'll be feeling lighter. And then finally, you're usually the one that breaks the toxic family dynamic and chain, or the ancestral patterning. I mean, growing up in my childhood home, I was very focused on getting out. I knew that it was a toxic environment And I knew I was going to have to leave as soon as it was safe to do so. And I did the morning after I graduated from high school. And I also promised myself that I wouldn't repeat the behaviors that I saw demonstrated in my own family home. And then I promptly went back to sleep for a few years and woke back up in my early 20s to see the same red flags popping up in my own life. I too was drinking to soothe pain. I was overeating to soothe emotions. My self worth and self esteem was dependent on what I achieved that day, how much I had exercised, equated to how much food I could take in. So things were a little askew. I was getting into abusive relationships. I was lying when it was just as easy to tell the truth. And luckily, by seeing those red flags, I surrendered fairly quickly. And by 25, I was sober and I was in therapy working on my family issues, which have continued to unveil as I've walked the walk in this earthly ride, which has been pretty incredible. And it feels like each decade there's been a new thing to sort of tackle. But I've come to understand that these issues, these challenges are actually grand opportunities for soul evolution, and that I've really been privileged to walk through these things. I talk about it in the book I wrote. It's called Toxic Family: Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom. And on my channel, in my videos, I try to share my own personal experience of walking through some of the chaotic trauma that I experienced being raised within a toxic family system. So you can find help, and you can find comfort, and you can find tools that work. So I hope you stay. Subscribe if you feel moved, share if you know somebody that this video might help, and come visit my website, susangold.us, because there's lots more there. Okay, take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.